Welcome to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharavana Raghavan.
Sudeep, this week I'm going to use CoBB to help resolve some of my client issues with you. Why let go of somebody when you have one end?
This week you're confessing. Otherwise, you always use cough to resolve client issues.
So I met this client who was in the food business, or the beverage business, let's say.
Okay.
And it's the company that his grandfather started. They started out making juice syrups. And today he's expanded into pickles and even MFD. And from pickles to MFD to juice syrups to squashes, everything's going by the same brand name. So for me, I could not imagine an MFD in the same brand as a syrup. It just seemed off. So
Yeah.
in trying to have the conversation, I thought I'll put this to you because you're more, politer and politically correct in addressing these issues. So when should brands extend, or when is a brand good enough to go across categories?
In fact, there are multiple examples of this kind. When you were talking about this brand, thinking of another brand called Catch. Catch has a water as well as spices under the same brand name.
Okay.
Yeah. Both are called Catch. Okay. And
DS
that's how
groups.
they operate. DS Groups. Yeah. DS Group based out of Noida. So first, to your question, when is a brand good enough to span across categories, etc., etc.? See, we've spoken about this multiple times. We have said that brand is not just a name; it's a bundle of promises that your product or service delivers to the consumers over and over again, consistently and regularly.
Right.
So, at a very simplistic level, if all the offerings under the brand deliver the same promise to the consumer, then you can extend your brand as much as possible.
Okay, but we've spoken about brand architecture in another episode where we've put together the bad examples, right? So I remember Pond's had launched a toothpaste which bombed big time, and Colgate had gotten into frozen pizza. So these were like the most aberrational examples. So the question, even with them, right, it says they start at one and then they offer something else. So there is a bit of confusion even within brand managers or even the leadership of where the brand should play.
Okay.
When is it okay? When is it not okay? You said Catch goes across categories.
Yeah. So before getting into specific examples, let's try and set that framework in our head so that we make it easier for people to decide, and then we can discuss a few examples. I will give a few examples along the way, and if anything comes to your head, feel free to bounce it off, and hopefully we should be able to, by the way of this conversation, we should be able to clarify this to all the marketing enthusiasts who are listening to this episode,
And me.
and of course your client. So I think so this is the reality of any company, small or big. All of them start off with one product, right? One product or one service that hopefully turns into a brand over a period of time. Yeah. And then all of them want to get into new spaces, fresh spaces, sometimes which are fairly divergent, and sometimes that are adjacent or minor variation of the current space, right? Or they get into new offerings that are serving the same need as the original one, but in a more interesting, in a more engaging manner, right? And when they are in the process of doing that, that's where the confusion starts, right? Namely, how far can my brand stretch? Can everything that I'm launching be launched under the same brand name or not, etc., etc., right? So in marketing parlance, there are a number of adjectives that we use against this word called brand, right? There's something called endorser brand, something called mother brand, something called sub brand, something called variant or brand extensions.
Yeah. The full architecture, brand architecture.
Yeah. So if we are able to clarify what each one of these is used for, meant for and used for. Hopefully, we should also be able to answer all the questions that you ask along
Okay.
the way, right? So what I want to do is start first with the downstream ones, and let
Okay.
the upstream ones be spoken about later. The upstream ones are endorser brand and mother brand. Let's
Right.
talk about them later. We'll
Because
talk
they
about
will usually be the first offering that developed from.
usually, and at start they will be brands, and then they will go on to become mother brands and endorser brands over a period of
Right.
time, right? But let's talk about sub brands and brand variants first, right?
Okay.
Now every brand owner has to be clear about what consumer need is your product or serving solving for, right? And now whatever you are going to launch new, if that is going to serve a slightly different need, right, or in a very different format, serve the same need in a very different format, right? Or the third condition is that if your brand's promise, whatever its original promise are, can be extended to this different need or different format, then in all these 2-3 cases, this new product would likely become a sub brand under your brand. So the first one is that if you are trying to solve a slightly different need, now this different need
Different
could be
need.
a
Okay.
category, could be anything. So I'm
Right.
not viewing it from a brand lens, I'm viewing it from a consumer lens,
Right. So within the
right?
category, solving a different need is one
So it could be solving a different need. It could be solving the same need, albeit with a very different format.
format.
Yeah. And the necessary condition is that your brand values or brand promises should be extendable to this different need or a different format. Yeah. In that case, you
And if this
employ,
value is transferable across categories, you can go there also.
you can go there also. You can go there also. Quite famously, if you look at car brands, right, they span across categories from
Correct.
economy cars to SUVs, etc., because they are perceived in a certain manner by consumer, and it does not matter what kind of range are they playing in, right? However, if your core brand is made of very strong associations, you find it difficult to stretch it to certain categories. In India's case, for example, Maruti, people find it very difficult to stretch it to luxury.
Right. It's usually what I've noticed is that, and I think it's right also, when you start as a value brand, very difficult for you to move up into the luxury space.
Correct.
But from the luxury, if you can offer an extension or an accessible version, that kind of is an easier play. And the only brand that I've seen do this is what you did with Silk, where Dairy Milk
True.
created a more premium version of itself in Silk. And did not. There are very few examples. I actually don't recall any which have managed something like this.
Yeah. So Maruti had to create a sub brand to
Nexa.
get into all of these spaces, which is Nexa.
Yeah.
Maruti had tried many years back, maybe I think in 2007 or so, 2007-8, to get a product called Maruti Kizashi in the market.
Correct.
It was a 23 lakh car at that point in time, 2008, which was a big amount, but it couldn't take off. Didn't take off because it was too much of a stretch for the consumers to buy a 23 lakh car from the house of Maruti.
Yeah.
While you could buy a similarly priced car from the house of, say, a Mercedes, right?
Right.
So therefore, that's where we are testing the boundaries of a brand to stretch itself.
Right.
But otherwise, if you're solving a slightly different need or same need with a very different format, and your brand promise can extend to both these places, you should consider a sub brand. Some of the examples that I will quote will be the one that you spoke about. We had a brand called Cadbury Dairy Milk. Now, from a sub brand perspective, when we wanted to get into a space where we give a much more indulgent eat to the consumers, desiring a sweet hit, we were able to get into Cadbury Dairy Milk Silk. When we wanted to make sure that the dairy milk reaches the smallest of the towns and gives them the taste of chocolate in an accessible format, it became Dairy Milk Shorts. When we wanted to make something which was exciting for kids and not as simple bar of chocolate. So we extended it into Dairy Milk Wowie.
Wowie, with the cartoon characters and all that, right?
Cartoon character inside it. Yeah. So each one of these were meant to be sub brands because they were either targeting the same need in the same segment, albeit with a different format, different offering, or they were targeting a different need. But the promise of Cadbury Dairy Milk, which is the original taste of Cadbury in the right kind of sweetness, right kind of form, was extendable to all of these. And hence, and Cadbury Dairy Milk also means something that you keep in your mouth and it melts on its own. You don't have to chew on it, right?
Right.
And hence, Cadbury Dairy Milk as a name went through all of these. Whereas if you do something like a 5-star, it will not carry the Cadbury Dairy Milk name.
Right. Can you give me an example of a brand that you've not worked in, which is more, it's harder to explain?
Okay. So let's go with Colgate, a brand that everybody knows. Now, Colgate core promise is that it refreshes your mouths and your teeth and keeps your teeth strong. It therefore has multiple ways of satisfying the same need. So you will see, for example, Colgate Visible White, Colgate Total, Colgate Dental Cream, Colgate Max Fresh, right? Something that has gels, right? So again, same thing. All of these go back to the same promise that Colgate has, but each one of them has a different way of satisfying the same. In fact, Colgate also has mouthwash.
Yeah.
Right? That also comes under the brand name of Colgate, right? And then because mouthwash has crystals in it, so it carries the promise of Max Fresh. Right? So it comes under Colgate Max Fresh portfolio, right? So that's how the sub brands can be figured.
Actually, both examples are great because on the show we've spoken about how these brands also do not extend. So I remember you bringing up the point of fruity gems, where because it is Cadbury, it just had to be chocolatey, and going fruity wasn't an option for gems, and that's the reason why it failed. And Colgate, on the beginning we spoke right about the pasta, frozen pasta. It's got nothing to do with oral care. In fact, it's got the opposite.
Yeah,
it doesn't work. But I have another question, Sudeep. A lot of times, people find it difficult to differentiate between variants and sub-brands.
Yeah.
For example, how do I tell a difference between CDM going into silk or Cadbury Dairy Milk going into silk versus Cadbury Dairy Milk doing a fruit and nut or a crackle? How is that different?
Sure. So sub-brand understood. Now let's get into variant. Right? If we understand it from a very classical point of view, we'll not get confused. Sub-brand, as we said, serves a different need or same need in a different format. Right? A variant actually is done only for one of the two reasons. Right? It is either done to, it's a small variation. That is the reason it is called variant. It's a small variation done to either cater to a very divergent taste or it is done to address the need for variety in the same amongst the same set of consumers, right?
Okay.
Let me give a very drastic example. A lot of people in North India, for example, might not know about this. All of us would know there is a very popular brand called Bonvita. Right. Now, Bonvita had significant salience in north and west of India, weaker in east and south, which have traditionally been milk deficient and Horlicks heavy markets. Right. Somehow, south of India is very, very heavy on 5-star. Right.
Because
they
of the
like
wrapper
this
color.
chewy or I don't know wrapper
Or the
color, or
shiny
maybe it's a combination of everything, but it works very well, right? And 5-star has this caramel nougat coated by chocolate.
Right.
Now, Bonvita came up with this idea that if we have to cater to people in South, possibly they don't like the sweet taste of Bonvita very well. We must give them a variant that they would want with a flavor that they identify with. And hence, Bonvita came up with something called 5-star magic.
Correct. Bonvita 5-star magic.
5-star magic. Let's be honest, I consumed Bonvita for a fairly long period of time, for about 25, 30 years of my life. And I used to like the taste of Bonvita. When I consumed Bonvita 5-star Magic, I thought that I mistakenly burnt the milk, right? It had this burnt caramelly taste to it. But now it will be a pertinent provocation to check whether 5-star Magic was a sub-brand or a variant, right? Now, from a classical marketing point of view, it was a variant because you are solving exactly the same need in exactly the same format. You've just provided a different taste to cater to people who have a very divergent taste portfolio as opposed to yours.
So the brand's core values still stay the same.
Yeah, core value, delivery, promise, everything remains the same. It's just a different flavor to cater to somebody's divergent taste, or in categories that have frequent consumption and people go into repertoire of products. There you try to create your own repertoire so that you get greater market share within the consumer's portfolio. And hence dairy milk gets into fruit nut, crackle, roast almonds, and stuff like that. So that if you're bored of eating normal dairy milk, please eat fruit and nut. If you've eaten sufficient fruit and nut, eat crackle with Rice Krispies. If you've eaten a lot of that, then please eat roast almonds. So Cadbury wants to provide sufficient variety within its portfolio so that you are able to jump from one to the other if you get bored. So these will be variants and not sub-brands.
Perfect. Understood. So going after the same consumer, you're offering them variety to just refresh the experience a little bit so that they keep coming, stay within the brand. That's very clear.
Variant is to provide variety.
Variety. That's a great way to remember it.
Yeah.
True. So now I'm going to hold you to your promise.
Okay.
Over the mother brand and the endorser brand. Even those two get confused all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Can you explain the two for me?
Sure. So, like you started by saying mother brand, now mother brand becomes the holding point for all the sub brands and variants under it. And it is usually, not always, but usually the original offering that the company started from. Right? So, from the examples that we've been discussing thus far, Cadbury Dairy Milk is the mother brand.
Right.
And then it has this Cadbury Dairy Milk appears on the plain chocolate, the simple plain Cadbury chocolate. And then it has a lot of sub-brands and variants under it. Right. So otherwise the dairy milk name is supposed to hold all other dairy milk carrier sub-brands and variants together. Right. That's your mother brand. Okay. You might therefore, for example, have Lifebuoy. Now Lifebuoy has soap, has
hand wash.
Hand wash has multiple fragrances to it, right? All those fragrances are obviously variants.
Right.
And hand wash and soap could be sub-brands. But both of them are held under Lifebuoy,
the mother brand.
So that's how you look at this hierarchy, right?
Okay.
And mother brand has a very heavy influence on product and its delivery or service or its delivery, etc., right?
Okay.
Now we come to the most least used and something which has only an umbrella presence with its impact, that is called endorser brand, right?
Okay.
Now endorser brand, quite interestingly, exists only to give equity endorsement to all the mother brands, sub brands, variants and brands that exist under it.
What is equity endorsement?
Okay. So equity endorsement means that there are the mother brand always holds some amount of promise for the consumer, and wherever the consumer reads that endorser brand, they tend to believe that whatever promise they associate with that endorser brand would be delivered by any offering that comes from it. For example, one of the most powerful endorser brand in India is Tata. So wherever Tata exists, somehow Tata equates with trust. So that's the equity that they have created, right? Trust, ethics, etc., etc. So therefore, consumer believes that whenever they are buying any Tata product, they can trust the offering. And I'm sure, like they said in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Each brand manager in Tata, category manager in Tata also has this responsibility to make sure that they don't break the trust by offering products that don't live up to their promise or making false promises. A lot of the consumers in India might not have realized, but Cadbury is an endorser brand. Actually, Dairy Milk is the mother brand. Yeah. So the plain bar that you see, it's actually Dairy Milk. It's not Cadbury Dairy Milk.
Right.
Cadbury is the endorser brand on the top. And hence, Cadbury endorses quite a few products. Even Bonvita is Cadbury.
Right.
5-Star is Cadbury. Gems is Cadbury. Right. Even Oreo is, Oreo comes from there. Then quite a lot of divergent products. All of them come from the house of Cadbury, because Cadbury equity is all about that original chocolate taste that consumers trust, right?
Right.
And consumers derive joy out of, right? So that's what they have come to expect. And hence, Cadbury is the endorser brand, Dairy Milk is the mother brand, and then there are quite a few sub brands and variants under it.
I think that's a beautiful example. That's because we used to saying Cadbury Dairy Milk all the time.
Yeah.
You forget that there are two different aspects to the brand there. I think
Correct.
it's very clear. But I'm going to behave like the client today, given that you're the consultant.
Mm-hmm.
I have one question to ask you now.
Mm-hmm.
So why is this important?
Good. And I think that's a very important question, Sharon, not just from a client point of view, but from a student point of view also. Why
True.
must we bother ourselves with all of this complications, right? I would say there are two primary reasons. The first primary reason is for all of us to understand that when consumers reads your brand name, whatever they find there, if any of them has any kind of equity in their mind, they immediately start believing that this equity, the promise of that equity exists in that product. Right. So we must be cognizant of what are the equities we are leveraging in what you are launching in the market. Right. Just for a, very random example, Mondelez, if they launch a savory snack in the market in India, right, they would possibly not use Cadbury name on top of it. Right.
Correct.
Because consumer expects a certain kind of offering from Cadbury. Now it comes from the same company, but you will have to be careful about what equity you are leveraging, because it's a said or unsaid promise to the consumer.
Right, absolutely.
So therefore, for your convenience, you might want to bung in everything under the same brand, right? But you have to be very clear that a brand comes with its set of promises. Please be sure whether those promises are being fulfilled or not, number one. Number two, when you create the right kind of structure, the structure allows you to also derive economies of scale from marketing. Yeah. All these years of brand building, when I repeatedly spoke about equity, so Colgate has an equity, Tata has an equity,
right,
Cadbury has an equity. This has come from years and years of marketing. And hence that equity keeps getting invested and grows with compound interest in some of these brands. Now everything that gets housed under it benefits from that equity, right? So when you advertise one of the sub brands, whether you like it or not, it benefits other sub brands also.
Right, absolutely. That's a beautiful point. Because when you say people need multiple arrangements, multiple hierarchies, the first thing that the client thinks of is that, oh, I have to spend double the money, one here, one there. How many brands can I build? I don't have the money for it. But
Correct.
Having a clear structure actually brings you economies of scale.
Correct. And I'm not just saying this from a feel point of view. I've seen the output of market mix modeling that we had done, where we were trying to decipher different growth levers for each of the brands. Right? And one of the clear growth levers for most brands, except Perk, was the advertising done by Cadbury Dairy Milk. Right? So
you would
Milk
advertise
advertising
Cadbury
was
Dairy Milk, and you would see spikes across all the other brands, sub-brands, the endorsed brands of Cadbury.
Even endorsed, yeah. So Gems would benefit, 5-Star would benefit. All of them would benefit because of this halo that was getting strengthened for this endorser brand called Cadbury.
I think there could be no better example to say why a brand architecture and clear thinking around this.
Yeah.
I don't think you said anything is right or wrong, but you have to do it right as per your brand's equity. And therefore, once you structure it right, then you actually make better returns for the marketing investments that you do.
Absolutely
Brilliant.
right. Thank you for summarizing like that.
I'm taking this, I'm transcribing it and emailing it to my client right away.
Don't forget to pay me my royalty.
No, I can't hear that. What do you say? Bye.
Thank you for listening to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharavana Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net.